It was early January 2006 when the Securitas cash depot in Tonbridge, England, opened its doors for a series of interviews. The depot was looking to fill a vacant position for its evening shift. Among the candidates, there was Emir Heist. The interview was brief, but it was enough for Heist to leave an impression of being the perfect fit. Little did the interviewers know, they were not just hiring an evening shift worker, but unwillingly setting the stage for a heist that would stun the entire UK. As Heist began his role at the depot, everything was normal. He seemed to be the employee the managers were looking for, but Heist had other intentions. He was part of a bigger operation. His co-conspirator was an unusual criminal, a force to be reckoned with inside the octagon and a heist mastermind on the streets. The two would end up robbing Securitas Depot in Kent, England for £53 million. A story involving the lives of an innocent depot employee, a family, and a UFC fighter who traded the octagon for a life on the run. We modeled the entire thing to tell you about the story of the Securitas Depot robbery. The story begins with a security guard, Colin Dixon. February 22, 2006, Dixon hit the road home after finishing his guard duties at the depot. Dixon's drive was about 30 miles southeast of central London. It started off going through all the crowded city streets, but then, at one point, it turned into really lonely farmland. He had no idea that this particular route was about to become incredibly important. As Dixon traveled the familiar road, his eyes were suddenly caught by the flashing lights of an unmarked police car in the rearview mirror. Thinking it to be for a traffic stop, he pulled over. The cop approached the side window and asked Dixon to step out of the vehicle. Dixon obliges, expecting a brief encounter. But what Dixon hadn't realized is that the police officer was fake. The police badge that the man flashed was a clever fake, and the man's appearance was skillfully altered by a professional makeup artist. Dixon, caught off guard, found himself handcuffed and placed in the back of the imposter's vehicle. The fake cop turned to him and said,
"We are not policemen. Don't do anything silly, and you won't get hurt."
When Dixon instinctively tried to adjust his handcuffs, the fake officer revealed his firearm and said,
"This is a 9mm.
The realization hit Dixon. He was now a pawn in a dangerous and well-orchestrated plan, a plan that extended beyond just his abduction. As he was driven away to a remote farm in western Kent, the next phase of the criminal's plan was already in motion. Meanwhile, back at Dixon's home in Herne Bay, his family was about to get dragged into the plot. Two more imposters wearing police uniforms identical to the one that had deceived Dixon arrived at his doorstep. Down the street, a second van filled with accomplices was stationed. The cops fabricated a story about Dixon having been involved in a serious traffic accident. They asked Lynn and their young child to accompany them to the hospital immediately. Lynn complied. She and their child were led to the van, not to a hospital, but towards the same isolated farm where Dixon was held captive. Upon arrival, a mix of relief and terror washed over the family as they were reunited, but only to be bound and held at gunpoint. The abductors demanded crucial information from Dixon about the depot. One of them said to him,
"If you cooperate, no one will get hurt. Otherwise, we already have your family."
And so Dixon has no choice but to do whatever to save his kid and wife. Making these videos requires the efforts of a well-organized team. That's why we're always on calls trying to come up with a banger video. But the thing is, I hate meetings, especially when I have to take notes. But there's one gadget that solved this for me, and that's the Note Pen by Plod. This beautiful tech gadget works as my 24/7 note taker. It's probably the best AI meeting secretary for entrepreneurs, creators, and managers out there. All you have to do is attach it to your shirt and press a button. The Note Pen will take notes of everything from a meeting or conversation, basically everything you say and hear. It will accurately transcribe what's being said with the right speaker labels. But no one wants to go through a transcript of an hour-long meeting. That's why the Note Pen summarizes the transcripts into action items with the most important takeaways, all without you lifting a finger. Everything is managed by Plod's easy-to-use app. If you want to come back to some idea from a couple of weeks ago, just ask Plod and the Note Pen will show it to you on your screen. And you don't have to worry about your data with Plod's end-to-end encryption, which meets top global privacy standards. The other good thing with the Note PIN, you don't have to worry about call interruptions, battery, or storage space. If you're a high-performing individual or working on becoming one, the Note PIN by Plod is the work companion you need. We've teamed up with Plod to give you 20% off by clicking the first link in the description, or just scan this QR code. Use the promo code FPD20 at checkout. The next night wore on, and the stage was set for a heist that would go down in history. The robbers, led by Lee Murray, were ready to put their plan into action. Paul Allen, Leah Rusha, and Ermir Heisenak. Dixon, under the immense pressure of his family's safety, found himself coerced into a pivotal role. He was in a sedan, driven by one of the crew, while his family remained in the back of the van. Their safety was the leverage the robbers needed to gain unfettered access to the depot. The clock had just struck midnight, making it the early hours of February 22nd. The heist was about to begin. The security cameras at the depot started recording the next part of the story. Dixon was led into the depot by Lee Murray. As soon as they were inside, the fake officer crew stopped pretending. Lee Murray quickly overpowered the on-site security guard and signaled the rest of the crew to come in, storm inside the main floor of the building, and brandish their weapons on the 14 staff members working the night shift. Following the robbers' demands, Dixon disabled the depot's security system and handed over the keys to the vault. The staff, along with the Dixon family, were bound and placed in metal cages normally used for storing cash. The guardians of the money are now captives themselves. The robbers wasted no time. For the next 40 minutes, they filled the van with cash. They wheeled out cart after cart loaded with 10 and 20-pound notes. The amount of money was staggering. The truck could only hold a quarter of the vault's contents, but they managed to load over 53 million pounds. They made sure the crew were locked inside the cages and left the scene. Lee Murray and company have just made history. As dawn broke on February 23rd, the quiet town of Tonbridge awoke to news of the heist at the Securitas depot. For the police, this was not just a robbery, it was a direct challenge. The aftermath of the heist was chaotic.
Forget the great train robbery, forget the Northern Bank in Belfast. Britain's biggest ever robbery took place in the early hours of this morning in Kent.
It was a crime like no other.
The bound staff and the Dixon family were discovered and released. The investigation kicked off immediately.
We're gaining valuable forensic evidence. We're developing intelligence on a range of suspects at the moment. The morale on the investigation team remains very high, and I remain confident that we will both catch and convict the people responsible for this.
Despite the robbers' careful planning, they had left behind clues. Several vehicles used in the heist were found abandoned. Some still had leftover banknotes inside. As the investigation deepened, the police's focus turned to those who had helped orchestrate the heist. Michelle Hogg, the makeup artist who had helped disguise the robbers, emerged as a key figure. Initially, she claimed to know little beyond the identities of the men she had worked for. However, as the pressure mounted, Hogg chose to fully cooperate with the police. Her testimony, combined with the evidence found in her trash, provided crucial leads. The narrative of the heist began to unravel quickly. Hogg's testimony and the evidence pointed towards Lee Murray. But before that, Murray, along with his accomplice Paul Allen, had already fled to Morocco. In a swift turn of events, key members of the gang were arrested. Some of the robbers received relatively light sentences, around 15 years, while others faced life in prison. For Michelle Hogg, things took another turn. With a reported £7 million contract on her head, she was placed under witness protection, vanishing from the public eye as the police continued their hunt for the remaining thieves. Authorities now are faced with the hardest part of the case, busting down Lee Murray and Paul Allen thousands of miles away, right in the heart of Morocco. British authorities couldn't get Murray on their own. They needed the help of the Moroccans. After months of surveillance and preparation, on June 25, 2006, it was time. Down in Morocco, Murray, not suspecting a thing, took a quick trip to Rabat's mall center. The Moroccan police, employing an abnormal number of officers, successfully detained him without incident. His accomplice, Paul Allen, was arrested the same day outside the mall. Back in the UK, Kent police were preparing for the extradition. However, the case against Murray took a turn when Moroccan authorities also charged him with possession of hard drugs, something that's taken very seriously in Morocco. The wheels of justice turned, and in June 2010, after 4 years of legal proceedings, a Moroccan court found Murray guilty of the £53 million depot robbery. Paul Allen was released from prison 6 years into his sentence, and he ended up paying £420 out of the £1.6 million he stole. None of the robbers have returned any of the money stolen to this day. The once feared UFC fighter is still in a Moroccan prison cell to this day. We usually get many emails from you guys asking how we make our YouTube videos. Since many of you are interested in pursuing YouTube content creation, we've made a small guide guiding you through what to expect, the do's and don'ts, and how to go about things. Click the link in the description and download the guide. It's 100% free of charge. Subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.